Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode on the Piscifun YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about the 4 deadliest ways to rig a tube. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so the most common way to rig a tube, and probably one of the most 4 deadliest, is just a simple tube jig head. So the one that I have here is 1/8 ounce. Depending on where you're fishing, you can go from anywhere from a 1/16 ounce all the way up to a 3/4 ounce. So it really depends on how deep it is, what kind of cover you're fishing around, and that sort of thing. This one is very simple. You want to make sure you just simply put some spit, just like that, and then you're just going to slide it inside the tube. And then once you get to this point, you're simply going to pull the plastic away from the eye of the jig like that. You can actually move this eye a little bit down or up, and you can change the fall of that tube. Sometimes it will trigger a bite. So that's the #1 most deadliest way to catch fish on a tube.
When using a tube jig, I typically like to use a Palomar knot. A Palomar knot is easy to tie, very strong, and holds up well.
Alright guys, so when you're using a traditional tube jig, you're going to want a setup that has a rod that's maybe 6'8" to 7 foot, medium light, and a fast action. That's going to allow you to hook those fish quickly on the bite. Now when it comes to your reel, I really love using a Piscifun Carbon X 2000. This reel has 6.2 to 1 gear ratio, as I mentioned before, super fast to keep up with those big fish. Now, when you're coming to fish this bait, you're going to have a couple of different techniques that you can do. The first one is just a very simple drag. Very slow along the bottom, just dragging that bait. What I like to do is try to read the bottom and feel every rock. If you do that, you'll be able to tell when that fish picks it up. Now the second technique is a scoot scoot and then a drag. And what happens is you're imitating that crayfish on the bottom. As it gets chased, it scoots away and then it crawls. So that's really what you're trying to do there. Now your last technique is a swimming technique. So you're just gonna kind of pick it up off the bottom and just swim that bait. And that's just trying to imitate a bait fish swimming through the water column. Very simple, very easy way to fish. All right guys, so the #2 deadliest way to rig a tube is a drop shot.
Rigging a tube for drop shotting is easy. Simply nose hook the tube about 1/4 inch in and you're ready to go.
So when you're using a drop shot, it's nice to have a rod that's long. It allows you to make really long casts. You're gonna wanna use a braided main line. I typically like anywhere from a 10 to a 15 pound braid. And then I'll either use a 6 pound or 8 pound fluorocarbon leader, depending on the clarity of the lake that I'm fishing. If it's very clear, I'll go down to 6. Moderate clear, I'll stick to 8. Most fish don't seem too spooky around 8 pound test. When it comes to my reel, I really like a Carbon X 2000. Carbon X 2000 is a 6.2 to 1 gear ratio, and it's super smooth with 10+1 ball bearings, so it makes a great system for drop shotting. When you're drop shotting, a lot of people, what I realize they do is they overwork the bait. So you truly just want to make little 2 to 4 inch shakes of the rod tip. And once you feel just a slight pickup of your bait, usually that's a smallmouth. A 5 pound smallmouth can feel like a 3 inch bluegill, so don't hesitate to set the hook when they bite. The Carolina rig is not commonly used with a tube. In fact, most people have probably never even tried this technique. Now, I really like this, especially for smallmouth and even for big largemouth, because it's a different way to present a tube, and it allows that tube to come through the water column in a different method than you can do with any other style of fishing. When rigging a Carolina rig, you're simply gonna start with an 1/8 ounce to a 1/4 ounce bullet weight. Then you're gonna use a bead to protect your knot. What happens is when you're casting, every time that thing slides back and forth, without that little bead, your knot will get damaged. Then we're simply gonna go to a 2 to 3 foot fluorocarbon leader, and we're gonna use a 2/0 EWG hook, and this is paired with a 2.5 inch tube. If you're gonna go to a bigger tube, then obviously you can step up that hook size. Okay guys, I feel the need to show you how to cast the Carolina rig because it's a little bit different having this ball and chain all the way down to the bait. So you're gonna do a much wider cast. And guys, this is the most simple one of them all. Once it gets out there, you just drag it along the bottom. You read the bottom with that bullet weight, and the rod for this you're gonna want to be just a bit heavier. And the reason you want a rod that's a bit heavier is because on the hook set, you actually have to snap that bullet weight up off the bottom before the hook can penetrate the fish's mouth. So as I said, just a simple light drag. We're using the same setup of reel, same braid, same everything. If you want to, maybe if you're fishing in a heavier situation, you can even step up to a Piscifun Serpent Series casting rod, but the spinning rod gets it done for me because I like the sensitivity. All right guys, now we're breaking out the heavy equipment. Here we're talking about a bait casting setup and the fourth deadliest way to rig a tube, the Texas rig. Now a Texas rig is a very common rig, and once upon a time, a lot of people actually rigged a tube this way. But what I've noticed over the last several years of bass fishing is this guy has taken a back seat to a lot of the creature style baits and cross style baits. So absolutely one of the most deadliest ways to rig a tube. It's a simple rig guys, just a Texas rig. You're gonna use anywhere from a 1/4 ounce to a 3/4 ounce flipping weight. And you're gonna fish this around heavy matted grass or around wood, anywhere where you'd find those big largemouth that are gonna be hanging out. And on this setup, I have a 5/0 EWG hook. That 5/0 hook leaves plenty of clearance, as you can see, for that hook to collapse when that fish bites. Typically when you come to your line, I like to use a fluorocarbon anytime I can get away with it. A lot of people tend to flip with braid, and if you're around really heavy cover, that's okay. But I believe that fluorocarbon gives your bait a much more natural look and fall.
When Texas rigging a tube, it's really important to have the right equipment for the job. I really enjoy using the Piscifun Serpent Series casting rod and a 7'4" heavy action. The heavy allows me to get that fish and the bait out of heavy cover situations. Now when it comes to the reel, I like to use the Piscifun Phantom X in a 7.6:1. That high gear ratio allows me to get that fish out of cover quickly, just like the heavy action rod. Thanks for watching guys. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Head on over, check us out on Instagram, and hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. We'll see you on the water next time.